Welcome to the Daily AI News Digest. I'm your host, and this podcast is brought to you by bestai.org. It is May 23, 2026. The global artificial intelligence ecosystem is shifting this week. We're moving out of the theoretical scaling phase, and we're stepping directly into the deployment of highly integrated, autonomous workflows. Let's look at today's market realities.
On the agenda today, first, the biggest moves today. Then, product and model realities. Third, regulation, policy, and business signals. And finally, the analyst's take.
So, let's start with Section 1, Biggest Moves Today.
We're starting with the macro events that are currently shaping AI capital and physical infrastructure. Right now, we're seeing corporate capital flow into physical compute hardware and digital labor at the exact same time. The first major capitalization metric we're tracking today is $5 billion. Blackstone, the world's largest alternative asset manager, has just finalized a joint venture with Google. The goal here is to build a dedicated US-based Tensor Processing Unit, or TPU, compute cloud. Under the terms of this agreement, Blackstone is committing an initial $5 billion in equity capital. They're aiming to bring the first 500 megawatts of capacity online by 2027. This venture is going to operate as a standalone business, offering Google's proprietary TPUs as a managed compute-as-a-service offering to enterprise clients.
As Josh Kyra, head of Blackstone and One, noted, capital alone doesn't build these platforms. It requires the right partner and the conviction to underwrite singular opportunities. What this joint venture actually does is establish a highly capitalized, non-NVIDIA alternative for large-scale AI training and inference. And to lead this enterprise, Blackstone has tapped Benjamin Traynor-Sloss as CEO. He's a 22-year Google veteran who previously oversaw their global infrastructure and operations.
The second major capital allocation we're reporting on involves Salesforce. CEO Mark Benioff disclosed that the enterprise software giant expects to spend $300 million specifically on Anthropic Claude tokens in 2026. This operational cost is almost entirely tied to powering AI-driven coding agents and integrating automated workflows right inside Slack. It is a very clear indicator of how operational expenditure is currently shifting to support large-scale digital labor.
If we compare these two strategic initiatives side by side, the current market reality becomes pretty obvious. On one hand, we have $5 billion being deployed to secure physical computing infrastructure through the Blackstone-Google TPU venture. On the other, we have a $300 million operational expenditure from Salesforce directed toward procuring the actual tokens necessary to power digital reasoning. Both of these moves underscore a distinct transition. We are moving away from experimental AI budgets and directly into core infrastructural investments.
Moving on to Section 2, product and model realities.
The focus for mid-May 2026 has noticeably shifted away from pure parameter scaling. Right now, the market is prioritizing architectural efficiency, mixture of experts routing, and physical hardware execution. Looking at the recent Google I/O 2026 announcements, we can report a few grounded updates. First, Gemini 3.5 Flash is now the default engine globally for the consumer app and AI search mode, heavily optimizing for latency reduction in agentic workflows. Second, Google rolled out Gemini Omni. This is a native multimodal model capable of generating and editing video based on an actual understanding of physical forces. Third, information agents were previewed for a summer release. These are designed to synthesize real-time data autonomously. And finally, on the security front, Google's SynthID digital watermarking has been formally adopted by external entities, including OpenAI and Kakao.
We are also observing the application of AI moving from purely digital environments into physical autonomy. Research published today in Nature details Sony AI's ACE project. ACE is an autonomous robotic system that has successfully defeated elite human table tennis players. The system utilizes 9 active pixel sensor cameras and model-free reinforcement learning. This allows it to perceive, decide, and act at the absolute edge of human reaction time, handling ball speeds and complex spins that previous robotic systems simply couldn't manage.
That brings us to Section 3, regulation, policy, and business signals.
This week, the industry is facing some severe operational realities regarding institutional security and systemic algorithmic changes. Right now, enterprise security leaders are responding to a major software supply chain attack. The threat group known as Team PCP has escalated their operations. They started with the original Shai-Hulud worm in late 2025 and then launched the mini Shai-Hulud variant in April 2026. This escalated on May 11, 2026, culminating in the compromise of 42 packages within the TanStack open source project, which is a highly utilized development framework.
The operational facts of this May 11th attack are highly concerning. In under 6 minutes, attackers chained 3 GitHub Actions vulnerabilities to completely hijack TanStack's CI/CD pipeline. They extracted OpenID Connect tokens directly from process memory. Critically, this allowed them to publish malicious packages that carried valid SLSA build level 3 provenance attestations. This is a documented first. They defeated process integrity controls to the point that the malicious code appeared cryptographically legitimate. This self-propagating worm ultimately infected over 175 packages and compromised internal devices at both OpenAI and Mistral AI. Concurrently, the digital publishing pipeline is being fundamentally altered. On May 21st, Google began a 2-week global rollout of its May 2026 core update, which coincides with the integration of Gemini 3.5 Flash as their default search model. This update heavily prioritizes synthesizing direct, zero-click answers right in place, rather than returning a ranked list of links. The direct result here is that organizations relying on ad-supported pipelines are seeing their traditional organic click-through rates fall, as the search interface simply absorbs the traffic. Let's transition to Section 4, the analyst take.
We need to cut through the marketing noise here and evaluate what these specific developments actually mean for enterprise survival and strategy over the next fiscal year. First, the reality of digital discoverability has changed entirely. The May 2026 core update enforces a very cold business reality. Organizations have to transition from traditional keyword-focused search engine optimization to entity-focused answer engine optimization. Because AI models are now synthesizing answers directly on the search page, B2B enterprises and publishers must structure their data specifically so it can be ingested by retrieval-augmented generation models. Sticking to legacy SEO tactics in a zero-click search environment is unequivocally going to result in a loss of visibility.
Second, human capital structures are actively shifting. If we look back at Salesforce's $300 million token expenditure, the underlying metric driving that is productivity. Salesforce transitioned roughly 15,000 developers from being active code writers into supervisory roles overseeing automated agents. By utilizing multi-model routing, which means directing simple tasks to smaller models and complex tasks to frontier models, they've documented a 30% increase in engineering productivity. The market reality right now is that a single engineer, backed by a robust agentic routing stack, can match the output of an entire traditional engineering team.
Finally, we have to address the security paradigm. The TanStack compromise really forces a reassessment of supply chain defenses. When malicious code can bypass cryptographic build verification, how do enterprises establish true supply chain trust? Provenance attestations alone are just no longer enough to guarantee safety. Organizations need to understand that verifying the pipeline does not verify the actual code. Moving forward, continuous runtime validation and stringent identity entitlements have to be deployed right alongside standard code scanning.
To conclude our explainer for today, the market is closely watching how enterprises will adapt their operational budgets for token procurement and how rapidly they can deploy multi-layered defenses against these autonomous supply chain worms. But the real looming question remains. As AI workflows become fully autonomous, are we securing our digital labor, or are we simply handing over the keys to faster, more efficient vulnerabilities? Thank you for joining us for today's Market Breakdown. This broadcast has been sponsored by bestai.org, so be sure to visit them for more insights. Stay grounded, and we'll see you next time.